a few questions from the press. There are a couple of roving microphones around, so if you would like to ask a question, if you could just indicate, please, and a microphone will come round to you. And if you could just let us know, please, what publication you're from. Any questions? Gentleman at the back there.
Chris Hope from the Telegraph. Nigel, what is your strategy to win the election? It looks like you're not doing so well in apart from 3 target seats. Are you thinking of a new strategy at the moment? How will you campaign into the final 9 days of campaigning?
Well, look, as I say, every attempt has been made to talk UKIP down. Every prediction that has been made about UKIP at election after election since really the beginning of 2011 has actually proved to be wrong. And we nearly always, surprise the commentators and surprise the observers. And part of that is the methodology that is used by polling companies. There are polling companies out there producing results in which the UKIP name isn't even prompted on the initial list. There are also companies out there, most of the companies out there, that re-weight the undecideds back on the basis of the share of the vote UKIP got in 2010. I mean, Harold Wilson said a week's a long time in politics. I tell you, in UKIP terms, 5 years is a lifetime. So the polls are under-predicting us. And when I said to you earlier that 19% of the Labour 2010 vote was intending to vote UKIP, Chris, that also included Scotland. So if you strip Scotland out of that, you're actually talking in areas like this, a very, very significant percentage of a Labour vote that is by the day coming to UKIP. And if we can ally that to getting non-voters and the people who've been disengaged through hope to vote for us, and then get the tactical vote from Conservatives, then these seats become winnable. As I say, we stunned everybody in Barnsley. We stunned everybody in South Shields. We stunned everybody, almost including ourselves, in Hayward and Middleton. We've got momentum up here in the north. Don't think that it can't happen, because it can.
OK, one more question at the back there.
John Stevens from the Daily Mail. We're getting news that the entertainer Keith Harris has died. Mr Farage, are there any remarks you'd like to make in tribute?
No, I'm not going to make any personal remarks about Keith Harris, other than I'm very sorry to hear that he's died. I suspect that question's rather a trick one, and I'm not going to get caught up on it. Thank you.
OK.
Owen Bennett here from the Daily Express Online. You talk about the Labour vote here being taken for granted over the years. And I just wondered, Nigel, how a former city trader who went to an independent school feels that he can reconnect with that Labour vote, which has been taken for granted by people, you say, from the metropolitan elite.
Well, unlike the type of people the Labour Party sends up to the northeast of England to become their members of Parliament, unlike them, believe it or not, it may be difficult for many to understand this, but do you know what? I actually had a job once. How about that? Because none of them ever have. And for 20 years, I worked in private business, in the commodities metals business. I, for 9 years, ran my own company. I spent huge amounts of my time in the Midlands and the north of England visiting factories and metal bashers, because they were my customers. So in terms of the world of business, I have a much greater understanding of what is necessary and what is needed than they do. And in terms of my own background, well, do you know, I went to a school that was a private school, but in my year, 50% of the boys that were there were scholarship boys, paid for through the Assisted Places scheme by local authorities. So I would regard myself as being utterly classless. But I would say this to you. 7% of people in this country whose parents are wealthy enough for them to afford private education are now dominating business, media, the sport, the law in a way that we've never, ever seen. And the only party who in its manifesto is attempting to address the issue of social mobility is UKIP, and we would bring back a selective school in every town in this country to make sure the brightest kids in Britain could do their very best, regardless of the wealth of their parents.
Okay, next question at the back in the middle, please.
Hello, Robin Brandt, BBC News. Nigel, you told BBC 5 Live this morning that some of the biggest racism, to quote you, that you've seen during this campaign is in Scotland. Do you believe that the SNP institutional racism in Scotland?
What I believe is that this constant attempt, and you know, the Prime Minister himself in the past has done it, it was Chuka Umunna doing it yesterday, this constant attempt to try to paint UKIP out to be a racist party is wholly unjustified, grossly unfair, is leading people out there who agree with UKIP to almost feel shy about talking about it, such as the level of demonisation. And I'm suggesting that if you want to look at unpleasant tactics in terms of street campaigning and outright naked unpleasantness of a national/racial nature, then you only have to see what was said to me when I was surrounded by a group of thugs in a street in Edinburgh to understand that actually it isn't UKIP that's the target. I have to say on that particular day I was very grateful to the police in Edinburgh who locked me in a public house for my safety. It's very funny.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any more hands from... I am seeing another hand from a journalist, so...
Felicity Collinson from the Hartlepool Mail. What could your party do to get Hartlepool its hospital back, given that it's the biggest issue for the people in the town at the minute? And also, what do you think of the town, sort of a town of this size, not having its own hospital?
I think I'll take that one. Yeah. Yes, I mean, we are saying very, very clearly, and I've been campaigning on this issue for the last year, that it is an absolute scandal, you know, that we haven't got the full range of services at the Hartlepool Hospital. I think it's about political pressure. You know, and if I'm elected as the MP in 10 days' time for Hartlepool, I will start on the night to put political pressure on Alan Foster and the Health Trust, because we need to have those local services. We can't expect everybody, you know, 90,000 people in Hartlepool to be going to North Tees and James Cook, which is already over capacity. So I'll be fighting from day one to get those services back to the Hartlepool Hospital.
Okay, any further questions? Yes?
To Nigel, to respond to claims about or allegations of racism within UKIP by talking about racism or alleged racism within the SNP, some people would see that as being in denial about, you know, what people see is happening within your own party. Is that a fair characterisation?
No, it's not. And your obsession, your media obsession with attempting to paint UKIP out to be a racist party is something I'm getting really rather bored with.
Yes, exactly.
Sorry. Yeah, go on, do.
I just wanted to say that I think UKIP is the only party that is saying our immigration policy is colourblind. You know, we're the only ones saying you've got to treat everyone the same, everyone fairly, everyone equally. You judge each individual by their own skills and talents, and that's why the Australian points-based system is actually very popular and is a very good policy.
Quite right, quite right, quite right. And I do hope the next time you're interviewing Ed Miliband, all of you, that you ask Ed Miliband why the Labour Party in Lancashire has been prepared to accept former BNP councillors who now sit as Labour councillors. I'm looking forward to hearing his answer to that particular question. Jonathan, we must go. We must go.